Hello everyone watching this video. Welcome to the GREENHORN Academy. In our series of presentations, we aim to bring to you the art of interviewing from the perspective of an interviewee. That is, you. It will be discussed with you in a very simple and plain language so that before you attempt your first interview or the next interview, you yourself are clear in your understanding of what is an interview, what is the purpose of an interview, and how does the interview differ from a normal conversation. Dear friends, that's me, Wing Commander Pankaj Bajaj, retired. I was recommended from Dehradun and retired from Dehradun. A long journey spanning 27 years, fulfilling, enriching, and humbling flying and interviewing experience. As an experience, it was made special with your participation. Yes, flying with you, training you, and interviewing you made me a more mature, better, and a learned person. I think it's time to give back what I learned from you all. So, welcome abroad to the wonderful world of interviewing. Before we understand what is an interview, we need to understand what is communication and how we as social beings communicate. In our world, we engage in personal communication or informal communication, semi formal or directed communication, and of course, the formal communication. We need to communicate at all these different levels at various points of time in our life. The personal or informal communication is the type of communication you and me engage in for most part of our social communication. It is unstructured, that is, does not require any rigid pattern to be followed. It needs no preparation and is mostly unpurposeful. Our friendly banters, small talks, and casual conversations all form part of it. We need to engage in semi formal or directed communication when we are seeking advice or suggestion from a person who holds an expertise in a particular field or is a figure of authority. You would be able to recollect your visits to doctors, lawyers, or other professionals and how we communicate with them. Not casually, but not formally also. This communication is also unstructured, needs no preparation. However, it does have a purpose and it seeks information. It is the formal part of social communication, which is going to be our focus area in the series of presentations which you're going to follow after the one you're watching now. This formal communication is one of the most important, yet not a very significant part of the total social communication we involve with others into. The formal communication is important as it determines our professional growth. It has a definitive structure, it has a purpose, it seeks information and needs preparation on both the sides. We normally engage in this communication for furtherance of our professional life, especially when we face the interviews. How does the world describe an interview? Simply put, the Oxford Dictionary says that an interview is a face to face meeting of persons for the purpose of formal conference on some point. In our life, at various points of a time, we have to face the interviews. Sometimes it is for school admission, sometimes for scholarships, and mostly for seeking jobs. Thus, in the above definition, almost every word remains the same except the last two words. Some point. Yes, this point varies depending upon the stage of our life and the phase of our life. The technique of selecting a person through an interview as an art is as old as the human race. Generations and generations have followed this method, which is time tested, and almost all professions utilize it to optimize the method of selection of human resource for their organization. In fact, with due respects to other techniques and their practitioners, it is believed that 80% of vacancies are filled through the interviews. A more formal and watertight definition of interview says that it is a personal meeting, mostly a face to face meeting between two or more persons with the objective of gaining information about a person so as to assess the potential of the person being interviewed for a purpose. Therefore, the interview has a definitive purpose. To achieve the purpose of the interview, it has to be practiced as an art with great care and responsibility, both by the interviewer as well as by the interviewee. Whereas the interviewer is checking the suitability of the interviewee with respect to his job, the interviewee needs to convince the interviewer about his suitability. Thus, there is a need to understand the intricacies of the interview at both sides, as a poorly conducted interview at both ends can lead to poor judgment of suitability. By now, we all agree that an interviewer desires information from an interviewee. For this, he has tricks up his sleeve, like asking questions, cajoling, or forcing the interviewee to part with the information. To execute this, he requires a formal place and a method to derive the information. This process of deriving the information not only helps the interviewer to judge the suitability of the interviewee, but also helps him to position the interviewee with respect to others after the completion of the evaluative interview. The interview acts as a bridge between the interviewee and the interviewer to hold a purposeful conversation. To make it possible, the interview has a structure, and this structure is to have a planned beginning in which the interviewer and the interviewee come to know each other and become comfortable with each other. This is followed by a middle in which most of the information is shared, and it ends once again with the interviewer and the interviewee coming to a common level playing field. Thus, an interview acts as a place of formal meeting with a purpose and in a controlled setting. Having seen what is an interview, what is the purpose of the interview, and how does it differ from a normal conversation, in our next presentation, we'll be discussing what is SSB interview, how is the selection done, and why in the first place selection requires to be done. Till the time we meet again, stay happy, stay safe, and Jai Hind.